Hi guys.
Hey.
Hello.
How are we doing today?
Much better than I have been in a while.
The chains have been lifted. God Almighty has freed me at last. And I am excited for this new age.
Me too. It feels like so different than it did a little bit ago for me.
Well,
What?
So,
For
we've been
those
freed
listening,
from a cult. Like we've been
Canada
trapped in a
does.
basement.
We kind of
I mean,
have
we
been.
kind of have. Yeah, I was about to say.
For those listening, if you're not aware or if you are listening at some point in the future, today is the 21st of January 2021, and yesterday President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris were both inaugurated at the Capitol. Thank the Lord.
At least we still had a capital. That was a question.
It
a
was
few
kind of
days ago.
iffy there, and I'm still worried a little bit about it. But I'm gonna put that in the back of my brain.
Yeah, I mean, I'm relieved on one hand, but I'm also like holding my breath, like terrified of chaos breaking out again, and I don't know when that feeling's gonna go away.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it like 3 or 4 weeks because I'm worried about people getting ideas when like the security starts breaking down a little bit. So
Right, so today we're going to be delving into the depths of the election cycle and everything that preceded it beforehand. So, we're going to be looking at politics in America, we're going to be looking at politics in Britain and how that may have influenced your guys' election. And yeah, we're just going to talk about a whole slew of things. We're going to delve into some deep analysis. So if you guys are into politics, this is, you're in the right place. If you don't really like politics, as Becky does not like politics, she has decided not to join us today, and Ayana unfortunately cannot make it.
Before we go anywhere else in the episode, I just do want to admit that Joe Biden is not perfect and is awful in the actual grand scheme of things.
I do not agree
but
that he's awful in the grand scheme of things.
He's awful in the fact that he's the same as everyone else has been besides Trump, but compared to Trump, I am happy that we are free. Like, I'm happy to have him, but I just want to say, we're not out of the woods.
I definitely think we're in a better position than we have been, because at least he is considering tuition reduction and tuition reimbursement. He is considering a healthcare plan versus not at all. He is doing a lot more than somebody who we just had in office.
Well, yeah.
And on top of that, like, I'm not saying
nothing.
that he's perfect, but I'm saying that he is better than some people that even ran as a Democrat.
Right. Yeah. We'll get into that as we get to the primary.
Where do we want to start?
Well, I guess I want to know, because I am not very well versed in your politics, but when was your last election? It was in 2019, right? 18?
2019 December. Boris didn't have a majority. He took his government. He took over from Theresa May, who didn't have a majority. She was in a confidence and supply agreement with the DUP of Northern Ireland, a very heavily right-leaning, conservative, Catholic.
The DUP.
Yes, the DUP. Yeah, organisation that is against gay marriage, is against abortion and all of that stuff. And she had to go into an agreement with them to be able to get her enough votes in Parliament to pass laws. So she was essentially there, and whatever they wanted, basically, they could get, because they just threatened to get rid of a majority. So Boris inherited that, and he was like, enough, I don't want this. I'm going to play the same trick that good old Theresa did, and I'm going to call a snap election. And it works in his favour, unfortunately. He gained a massive majority not seen since the Margaret Thatcher days. The Red Wall, as they call it, as in Labour Party, because I know you guys, red means Republican, but red here means Labour. So yeah, this Red Wall, this Labour heartland, was destroyed because Boris's Conservative Party managed to win over the working class. It was basically the Brexit election. It was a proxy second Brexit referendum. because you had the Liberal Democrats who were like, we're going to rejoin the EU. You had the Tories, let's get Brexit done was their slogan. You had Labour Party, which was like, we'll put it back to the people, and it was very on the fence, which cost them the election.
So, like, I kind of know about Brexit from being your friend, but I feel like in general, Americans are not the most tuned in to it. Could you explain why do people want to leave the EU in the first place? I mean, obviously it's done now, but like, why did they?
Well, they wanted to leave for a large variety of reasons. The EU is one massive trading bloc with about like 27 or 28 countries. So you had like it was this massive like capitalist wonderland where you could move goods freely between countries without having to pay any sort of like customs or import tax.
But it was just European.
It was European, yeah.
So did it restrict them from like trading with non-European countries?
No.
Kind of. There were some rules that were like that, but obviously we still traded. We traded with China. You traded with all of them. But I think I can't remember exactly, but there was something along those lines.
There totally was rules, but I feel like it wasn't as
there were no restrictions.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like there was rules, but there was no like total restriction.
But like they had a court as well, the European Court. They could vote, and the European Parliament as well. All the countries could vote on whether to impose like a trading ban with a certain country. So like, I don't know, North Korea. Let's say they're like, North Korea's bad. We don't want anyone in the EU to trade with them. If we find out you've been trading with them, we're going to sanction you. And all that stuff. And they used to make laws in the European Parliament that would apply to all of the European Union. So for a good example of that is the workers' rights. There's something called a 48-hour week here. I think it's 48 hours anyway. So 48-hour week, that's a maximum you can work by law, in European law. And if you want to work more, you have to, in writing, opt out of that. Another one is the GDPR, which is very good for data protection. Everyone knows about GDPR here. I don't know about over there. General Data Protection Regulation. It's just one massive data protection law. So yeah, so those were the good things. You could move freely between countries. You could when we were in the EU, I could go to Spain, stay there for pretty much as long as I wanted to. People had second homes in Spain, stuff like that, in other countries as well. And now,
wasn't the main reason a lot of people wanted to leave is because there was like you guys paid a lot of money to the European Union, and not all of that actually went back to you guys as a whole. They would be dispersed to other countries, and that's why people were so upset about it.
Yeah, that was one of the many reasons why. Another one was because people hated the fact that immigrants were coming to the country and being able to stay as long as they wanted, because they thought that they were claiming welfare and like just living off nothing and free money and all that crap. And not the truth. Was
that before or after Trump that trend began?
Before, because we had the referendum in 2016 before Trump was even elected.
Okay.
And they were, well, one of them, this goes back even further to the 2015 general election. The Tories won that one because they promised a referendum on the European Union. So this thing has been in the work. The
big talk about immigrants had been happening for
a long time, yeah.
So do you think that Trump politics was inspired by Britain in a way then?
I think he saw the rise of right-wing populism in a lot of countries in Europe and was like, I can take a leaf out of their book.
But fake populism, let me just say. These people don't care about the wants and the needs of the working class. They just are pandering to them.
Yeah.
It's awful that, like, right-wing populism is this, like Trump and Boris and stuff. Whenever, like, real populism is like Bernie and they're tainting it. And now populism is such a bad word in the main media and stuff.
Yeah. So it goes all the way back to the 2015 general election, even before that. And obviously we voted to leave. One of the other big reasons was that people didn't like the fact that our laws were being, I'm going to say this in air quotes, dictated by the European Parliament. they thought like we need to gain our sovereignty back. And
This is so weird. It's like y'all are revolting from yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's like 200 years ago we left because we were like we don't want to be ruled, so we're just gonna leave Britain. But now you guys are like we want Britain to leave. Like
it's just, I think it's ridiculous because all of those laws were for the common good. It's like we had a voice in the European Parliament. It's not like it was a dictatorship.
I don't know. I think as destructive as it is in one hand and as misguided as conservatives are in their reasonings for wanting to do it, I think it's also possible that Britain could possibly become even more of a left-wing, actually progressive country because they're separate from some of those things. Like, going forward.
Maybe. I had a few friends who were quite far left-wing that actually wanted us to leave the EU because they saw it as this big capitalist machine and they think we're better off outside of it to pursue more far left agendas.
Which isn't what Boris wanted. He wanted to build your own capitalist machine. But I think there's a good that can come out of it that isn't that.
It's like David Cameron, after he won the 2015 election, did the referendum, campaigned for us to stay in it because he thought it would be good for our economy. Obviously, he lost that referendum, so he resigned. Theresa May comes in. She actively campaigned for us to remain in the EU as well, so she wasn't seen very favourably. She only became Prime Minister because every other candidate dropped out. So it was like by default, and like she couldn't deliver it. Her Brexit deal got voted down something ridiculous like 3 times because she didn't have a majority. So like a handful of people could revolt against her if they didn't like it, and it would it wouldn't go through. And then you get Boris coming in, who was gonna put the British interests first, yada 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 yada. He won a massive majority because the working class thought that he's going to get Brexit done, get Britain back on the world stage, Britain for the British, and all that crap.
But he came after Trump, right?
Boris. Oh yeah, and
he is like branded after Trump, isn't he?
He's been around since before Trump though, but he's always been a bit of a buffoon.
Did he become like this until Trump? Did he always have that hair?
Oh, he's always
always had that hair. Oh my gosh.
Oh, so Trump that's so weird. Because in my mind, Boris was just like Britain's Trump.
He is Britain's Trump, but
he definitely is. But like,
he's
I feel
calmer.
Like, yeah, I don't think that I think he's more irrational than Trump ever was, because at least with him, he is acknowledging the whole coronavirus thing. Like, at first he didn't seem to acknowledge it, but he has came to his terms with it and has actually made it so that there's actually proactive stuff going on, and now UK is like pretty much top when it comes to vaccinations. So at least for him, he isn't being crazy in that way. At least not in the conspiracy way. We've
vaccinated something like, I think, about 5 million people as of the time that we're recording this, and we only started vaccinations at the start of December.
Yeah, so you guys are doing fantastic.
Wow.
We plan to have all over 70s and clinically vulnerable people vaccinated by the 15th of February, and then after that they're going to move on to over 60s and work their way down.
Well, because you guys made a good deal with Pfizer.
Well, I was reading on the news earlier, Biden did not inherit a vaccine plan from Trump's administration. They didn't make one, so they have to start from scratch.
We're screwed. No, but I'm sure Biden's probably been working with them.
Well, just today he signed like 6 executive orders that had to do with the vaccination. So
yeah, he's obviously been working on it during the transition, but then you need to remember that Trump didn't allow that transition to happen until the very last minute. So going back to the UK election, Boris won because he won over the working class, saying that he was going to get Brexit done and have us stop being ruled by Europe and get our sovereignty back and all that malarkey.
But the media also smeared Jeremy Corbyn, right?
Oh yeah. Well, Jeremy Corbyn hasn't been that popular anyway. In the 2017 election, he did gain seats. That's because Brexit wasn't as big of an issue back then, and people actually liked him for his social policies. He didn't gain enough to become the Prime Minister, but he still gained a fair amount.
Aren't a lot of your more left-wing parties split up where the Conservatives are all pretty much together?
Yeah, so you've got you've got the right Conservatives, you've got the centre-left Liberal Democrats, you've got the left-leaning Labour, although they are now more centre-left as well because of the new leadership, but we'll talk about that another time. And then you've also got the Green Party, which is also left-wing, and you've got the Scottish National Party in Scotland, which is moderate, and the Plaid Cymru in Wales, the Welsh Independence Party, which is also left-leaning. So yeah, it's quite intense. There are a lot of left-leaning parties.
It splits it up. That's kind of like a warning to us about the dangers of splitting our party up. But I mean, that's what's happening to the Republican Party too. So
Jeremy Corbyn was smeared as a communist, an anti-Semite, saying he didn't do enough to tackle anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. Which
is that why they said he was an anti-Semite, or was there another reason?
I think because
wasn't it about his stance on?
Yeah, he supported Palestine, I think, and not Israel. So he was smeared. He was smeared as a terrorist sympathiser because he met once in the 70s with some guy from the IRA, which is an Irish terrorist organisation. It's a lot, and to be fair, with a past like that, you're probably not going to become electable. But he tried his best. Obviously failed.
I guess. I'm sure he was still better than Boris would have been.
Well, the British people didn't think that. He lost his election. He didn't focus too much on Brexit in the last election, which I think cost him a lot of seats. And he has no one to blame but himself. He resigned, and now we have a more moderate, centre-leaning Labour leadership, and he has purged...
So do you not really have a left-wing party anymore?
The Greens, kind of, I suppose, but there's not really... Because the Labour Party was, when Jeremy Corbyn was in, was quite socialist-leaning.
Which is what Labour is.
Yeah.
Labour is about the working class of the people controlling everything.
Now they've gone back to the centre, and Keir Starmer,
Don't you guys already have a centre-left party?
Yeah, but no one votes for them because, long story short, they went into partnership with the Conservatives in 2010, promised that they would abolish tuition fees or cut them or something, and then they tripled them. So no one trusts them anymore. They barely get any seats. They're not.
That's like our Democrats.
They just lie. They're not electable at all, and everyone sees them as Tory, like a light version of the Tories. So, but yeah. So then now we have Keir Starmer, who has been licking Boris Johnson's arse. That's all I have to say. Not being an effective opposition at all. Hardly asking the right questions, sucking up to him to try and get more votes, even though the next election isn't for another 3 years. And he purged the front bench and all official positions of any far left-leaning Labour Party members. Suspended Jeremy Corbyn from the Labour Party because apparently he was anti-Semitic. Which, honestly, I don't know much about any of that, so I can't comment.
Well, I mean, no. I mean, to be fair, the conversation around Israel and Palestine is very much fabricated, and it's meant to seem like an equal fight, but really it's just Israel taking advantage of Palestine. And I think it's fair to not necessarily support Palestine, but just to support neither of them, like not help the fight. Like the fight's happening, even for evangelical people. The Bible says they're gonna fight forever. Like that's literally what the Bible says.
I would completely say that I think that countries should start supporting Palestine, because I did a whole entire, my whole dissertation for college was about Israel versus Palestine, and learning about what Palestinians go through and the unethical stuff that happened to them, such as their schools getting bombed and Israel soldiers standing outside of elementary schools and making it impossible for kids to go to school, pretty much at all times getting stuff thrown at them. They have to walk through gates that are literally basically like cattle herds if they want to go from one place to another. And they basically are made to go on only roads that take you way outside of the area that they need to go to any place in their country. They have roads specifically for Palestinians.
That's awful.
It's honestly the most depressing and awful thing I ever studied in college.
It's really awful. I feel bad for Christians who have to face the reality of what Israel is really doing whenever their holy text is like advocating Israel as God's chosen land.
I think that people that agree with Israel, besides people that are Jewish, and I get some of their opinions and things, but when it comes down to it, like if anyone stands there and agrees that what they're doing to Palestinians is okay, then there is something ethically not quite right.
I just feel like in this country with so many evangelicals, like, I think the best we can shoot for is just not funding and not supporting it. I don't know if we should fund the other side, but
I'm not saying that we should
stop.
I don't think we should fund the other side, but we
Israel.
should give our verbal confirmation that we understand the issues that are going on in Palestine, and we think that Israel is causing some of it. We don't need to give weapons to Palestinians. We need to verbally agree.
Israel.
We need to stop helping Israel, and we need to verbally agree that we do not agree with Israel and their treatment of Palestinians.
And it's awful that an argument based in humanity and based in caring about these people can be twisted to become anti-Semitic.
Well, yeah,
and can take someone down.
That's
like
the danger of talking about it. Like Jeremy Corbyn did that, and he got labelled an anti-Semite. And that, like, was one of the reasons.
It's just because the media won't, it's unfair. They take people down. If someone can really explain their stance and really explain where they're coming from, I think it can be framed a different way, but they just take a story and run with it.
But yeah, so all of those reasons cost Jeremy Corbyn the election, allowed Boris Johnson to rise to the top, get Brexit done, and then obviously Boris and Brexit and everything influenced Trump, and it had a knock-on effect over there. He rose to power, and then because of that, in the Democratic primaries, you had a vast majority of people running, like a lot.
Oh my god, okay, let's see. I have a list right here.
So
let's count.
Let's get into that.
Let's count. Hold on. We got Biden, we got Sanders, we got Tulsi Gabbard, we got Elizabeth Warren, Michael Bloomberg, Amy Klobuchar. People are just Patrick Andrew Yang,
But you honestly think that everyone on this list would be better than Biden?
Well, no, but most of these are Biden. Most of these people have the same ideology. I mean, there's only a handful of them that are progressive, and the rest of them are like center left.
Yeah, I just don't think that. I think that Biden would be better than Klobuchar.
I think they'd be the same.
I think he's better. I think he has experience as a vice president.
Okay, but Klobuchar never stood a chance. Like,
okay,
we can't compare
no, but
them.
she seriously stayed in there for a while.
Yeah,
Also Gabbard.
I have no idea what this stood for or anything.
Oh, Gabbard 100% would have been a better president than Biden. Possibly a better president than Bernie Sanders, to be honest. I think she's incredible.
I think Warren would have been a better president, and I think Warren and Sanders would have been a better president, but that's where I draw the line.
Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, Elizabeth Warren, Andrew Yang, in a way Tom Steyer, and like Marianne Williamson. All of them are the anti-establishment progressive voices, I feel like, and everyone else is kind of in the same boat.
I voted for Sanders. I think that he would have been a better candidate, but I think that he is one of the better candidates of that could have been chosen. Yes, there are better ones. I think Sanders and Warren would have been better. I don't think Yang stood a chance. I know he was very progressive.
Well, yeah, but he's about to become mayor of New York, and then it'll be a whole nother thing. Which he's running, I'm very excited about. But I'm nervous. I mean, I think Trump burned himself into the ground with the way that things went out. His approval rating plunged right at the end because of the riots. And he went out on a bad note. But if that hadn't happened and Trump had just bowed out and not done all of this stop the steal stuff, I think that there would have been a serious risk of Trump coming back in 2024 because we chose someone that was basically the same as most of our Democrats before, which got us Trump. The fact that we're not that we didn't change things up.
I feel like if we picked a really progressive one as well, there would be a lot of people that would come back and be like, this is awful, I hate this policy, we need to do something.
Yeah, the conservatives, and they would all still vote for Trump, but you would have a bunch of non-voters, a bunch of working class people who had been disaffected by the entire system that would have seen someone that actually wanted to do things for them and wasn't being paid off for cushy gigs by elites.
I would argue that Biden is going to do something for the working class, and it is going to do things.
Yeah, but crumbs compared to what a lot of these other people were advocating for. Biden is going to do the bare minimum.
I think if somebody saw Biden doing things like taking $10,000 off of student loans and making it so that the economy is in a better standing position so that people can keep work, raising minimum wage, which I do think that he's going to try to advocate for. I think that them seeing that kind of stuff is going to substantially affect people that are in the middle as well. And maybe even more than people that are in the even more progressive, because yes, people are going to be really happy about that, but some people are going to be like, okay, but this is a lot of change and I don't think that we should change this fast, I'm going to back away. I want that. I think that we should progress faster. That's why I voted for Sanders, but I'm saying from the standpoint of somebody who's looking at them, I think that Biden is a good candidate and would do the things that he needs to do to help the people that are in the middle class and lower middle class.
He's doing the bare minimum, and it also has to do with who these people are working for and who is funding their campaigns. And at the end of the day, like, a lot of these people can only do the bare minimum because, yes, I'm grateful that he is embracing some progressive policy with the $15 minimum wage, which wasn't even on the table before Bernie ran in 2016, and including the few things he's doing about the climate. And what he is doing for the working class is great, but it's just he's only allowed to do so much because of the strings that are attached to him and most of these people. I mean, he is still going to be far better than Trump, and I'm happy to get to a place like where we were with Obama, but I mean, things weren't great then either. And the Democratic Party is not the best party in the world. So
yeah, I don't know.
But we had this primary, and I think Sanders, I heard a lot of rhetoric from the media about what happened to Britain whenever they elected a super progressive left-wing person and how he was defeated in a landslide. And I definitely think it influenced our election. Do you agree with that, Mitch?
Yeah, and I also feel like America is, even than our right, sorry, you guys are so much more right. You're crazy. You have like no.
Well, even Bernie Sanders is like, he would be considered center left to most other countries, like most other first world countries.
You guys are so far right that you see center left as socialism or communism.
Yeah,
and like that's intense, kind of crazy. You guys have like no employment rights or anything like that.
We used to have more unions.
No minimum wage.
We have a minimum wage.
It's just
and
low.
we also have state minimum wages.
Why do servers only get like $2 an hour then?
Well, because with their tips, if they argue that they didn't get $7.25 an hour in tips, then they will supplement that for them.
Will they though? Because I know you were a server, Joey. Was that?
Yeah, but I always made more than that in my tips per hour over the week.
Yeah, servers are just a special case here because I don't think they should, but they thrive off of tips here. And sometimes, actually, I've heard servers that make bank because of tips. So, yeah, I've heard it's actually one of the better jobs to get one in college. I just never experienced it myself.
Well, you know, this primary definitely showed us that there's a divide in the party between more centrist and more progressive people. And I think even whenever we saw local elections and elections for the House and Senate in the general election, we saw that there are more progressive minds coming in, and I think we're going to see the party transform a bit going forward, hopefully. But I think this is where we're going to stop for today. For this half, we're going to do another half next week, and we're going to get into how the primary ended, as well as the general election and all the craziness that happened after that and where we are now. So
this is very deep topic, so don't be alarmed that it's 2 parts, because we have a lot to talk about.
And we know it's dense, so I know you don't want to handle too much of it.
Yeah.
So take a break before you watch the next episode. It might not even be out by the time you're watching this. You might have to wait a week, so who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. Sorry about it. See you later.
See you guys.
Bye. Bye.